Baro Dren had buried his last crop, his last son, and his last hope. So when a glowing girl fell from the stars into his wheat field, naked, trembling, and begging him to mate, he figured he was either finally insane or about to be dragged into the wildest fight of his life. Baro Dren didn't need much, just his land, his tools, and silence. The silence of a man who had lost everything and accepted it like the setting sun. His home sat square in the middle of nowhere, deep in the fertile belts of Teravalis Prime, under the twin moons. Some folks called it exile. He called it peace. He had no wife, she died in the collapse of the Xandri spaceport. No children anymore. His son was swallowed by the Reaper War on Titanis 7. No neighbors for at least 30 miles in every direction. Just wind, wheat, and the steady hum of his solar tiller. That night, under a crescent blood moon, the silence shattered. A scream split the sky. Baro looked up. A silver trail of fire arced down from the stars, smoke spiraling behind it like the tail of a wounded god. It struck the far edge of his property, just where the wheat ended and the dead soil began, with a thunderous roar. The ground shook. Flocks took to the air in panic. Baro stood still. The scar on his back, old plasma burn, itched. He grabbed the same rifle he'd buried 20 years ago under the porch. Then, barefoot and shirtless, he walked out into the field. The crater was still steaming. Wheat around it had been scorched to black stalks. At the center of the crater, something glimmered. He stepped closer, weapon raised. Then it moved. A figure emerged. Pale, feminine, fragile-looking but radiant like moonlight. Her hair streamed down her back in silken white threads. She wore no armor, no clothing but a tattered band of alien fabric hanging from her hips. Her skin shimmered softly like bioluminescence trapped under glass. She stumbled, fell. Baro stepped forward on instinct. Her eyes snapped open. Glowing lavender orbs locked onto his. "You," she gasped. Her voice, though faint, echoed in his chest like a tremor. "You're unclaimed. A male. Alone." Baro froze. Yes," he said, lowering the rifle slowly. "You're not local." She collapsed again, crawling on all fours toward him. "I am Silva. I am in mating heat. Without biological stabilization, I will destabilize at molecular level. My mating session has begun." Baro's mouth opened, closed. He tried to speak, but Silva surged forward and grabbed his hand. Grip strong, fingers trembling. "I chose you," she said. "Please, accept me, or I will die." Baro didn't move for several seconds. She wasn't human, but something inside her called to him. Something desperate, raw, and honest. Her skin burned where she touched him. Not in pain, but in an energy he hadn't felt since he was young. Her voice rang in his head like a whisper through bone. She wasn't begging out of desire. She was dying. He dropped to one knee. "I'm no stallion," he rasped, "but I'll do what I can." Her entire body relaxed in his arms. "Thank you, bonded mate," she whispered. "Hold me." He brought her back to the farmhouse. Wrapped in his old military coat, Silva trembled on his cot, while her body emitted soft pulses of blue and violet light. He boiled clean water, brought blankets, watched over her while the mating fever coursed through her. Silva's biology, she explained, was genetically bound to the mating phase. A cairn species trait, triggered by hormonal cycles accelerated by planetary radiation. If the rite wasn't fulfilled in time, her atoms would unravel from the inside out. It wasn't passion, it was chemical survival. "And me?" Baro asked, arms crossed. "You were nearest. And unbonded," she said weakly. "But there's more. I saw something in you. Strength. Sadness. Anchor." He sat down next to her. Looked out at the window, watching the wheat swaying under the moon. "Then you saw too much," he muttered. Silva reached for his hand. "I saw enough." Their bonding wasn't like anything Baro had imagined. It wasn't just physical, though it was that too. It was emotional, neurological. She opened her mind to him, and he saw her world. Crystalline cities in the clouds, coral technology powered by harmonic resonance, and the oppressive rule of the matrons who controlled who mated with whom. She had run from them, fled in the middle of her mating bloom to avoid being paired with a brutal political suitor. Her escape had triggered the session prematurely. And now here she was, in the arms of an old farmer with scars and silence for company. When the fever broke, she slept. And Barrow watched her, unsure of what had just changed in his life, but certain it would never go back. He awoke to the sound of wind chimes, not the wooden ones his wife had hung decades ago, but metallic ones. Synth-tuned chimes from orbit. He ran to the porch, looked up. A dark triangle blotted out part of the sky. Sleek, silent, definitely not human-made. It hovered just over the wheat line. Then, a voice, smooth, cold, female, echoed across the land. Matronship approaching. Surrender the rogue. The bond is unlawful. The male is to be terminated. Barrow narrowed his eyes. He turned, went inside and opened the old weapons chest. A dusty fusion rifle. 3 grenades. His son's combat armor. Pack of bitter memories. He began strapping it all on. Silva appeared at the doorway, wrapped in one of his flannel shirts, her long hair shimmering like white fire. "I won't run," she said. "But they will kill you." "They can try," Barrow growled. "You're mine now. They want you back. They'll have to take you over my grave." Silva stared at him, her luminous eyes brimming with something both ancient and tender. "I chose well," she whispered. Outside, the wheat began to part, unnaturally, as if something was moving through it, many somethings. Fast. Barrow clicked the safety off his rifle and stepped onto the porch. "Stay inside," he said. "This is my land. No one dies on it without my permission." From the fields came the matron guard, gleaming figures, armed and silver-eyed. But they hadn't counted on one thing. Barrow Dren had buried too much to let go again. Old farmer Barrow Dren, once a war veteran, now a recluse, found an alien girl named Silva crash-landed in his wheat fields. She was in her mating heat, a condition that would kill her without bonding. She chose Barrow. Their connection became both biological and emotional, but now her people have found her. The matronship demands Silva's return and Barrow's execution. But the farmer has strapped on his old armor, and the fields are no longer peaceful. The wheat hissed as armored figures moved through it. They were not subtle. The matron guard marched in perfect unison. 10-foot-tall humanoid enforcers, skin like reflective glass, wielding sonic scythes and harmonic disruptors. These weren't soldiers. They were executors, purpose-built to retrieve genetic assets and erase contamination. And to them, Barrow Dren was a blight on purity. He stood on his porch, fusion rifle humming against his shoulder. Sweat dripped from his brow, but his arms didn't shake. "Not anymore. I count 6, he muttered. "Could be more." Inside the cabin, Silva crouched by the window, watching with wide, terrified eyes. "They'll phase around if they think you're baiting them," she said. "Matrons don't attack directly at first. They split and flank." Barrow nodded. "So we funnel them." He pulled a rusted lever beside the porch. With a groan, the wheat field folded inward, revealing defensive trenches hidden since the Reaper War. Turrets rose from old irrigation pipes, and energy mines activated beneath the soil. Silva blinked. "You were expecting a war?" "No," Barrow smiled grimly. "I just never forgot the last one." The first of the matron guard stepped into the open. A towering figure encased in metallic robes, twin blades crackling with violet plasma. She pointed at Barrow. "Return the rogue, male. You are irrelevant. Your bond is rejected by the matriarch conclave." Barrow didn't flinch. "You want her? You'll have to step over every acre of my land. And I warn you, I grow more than wheat here." The enforcer tilted her head. "So be it." The ground erupted. Barrow triggered the turret line. The field whirled with blasts of kinetic fire, plasma bolts searing the dry air. The guard moved like shadows, splitting, weaving through beams, but Barrow had known the terrain longer than any drone. He fired his rifle in controlled bursts, cutting down 2 as they advanced along the ditch. One lunged for him. He ducked, rolled, came up firing. Crack! A disruptor pulse grazed his ribs, sending him staggering. His vision blurred, but he kept firing. The land was his body. The fight was his breath. Inside, Silva watched, torn by fury and fear. Her people were hunting the man she'd bonded with, and he was winning. But it wasn't enough. She stood. Her skin rippled with mating energy still unresolved. She walked outside, glowing, hands raised, and sang. It wasn't a song in human terms. It was a resonance, a biological frequency that distorted the guard's sensors. Their motion slowed, limbs jerking unnaturally as her pitch hit its peak. Barrow shouted, "Silva, get down!" She screamed in return, "Let me fight!" With a single leap, she landed beside him, her skin flaring with pulsing energy. A guard charged. Silva flicked her wrist. Energy whips lanced from her palms, cutting through the enforcer's armor with a high-pitched screech. Barrow gaped. "You could do that this whole time?" She smirked, eyes gleaming. Mating heat suppresses combat drive. Now that it's complete, I'm back. Together, they turned the tide. Barrow reloaded, fired. Silva deflected sonic blasts with harmonic barriers summoned by pure will. She danced between the attackers, energy cracking through her fingertips like living lightning. She wasn't just beautiful. She was terrifying. Barrow took a disruptor to the shoulder, dropped to one knee. Two guards surged toward him. Silva roared. She exploded forward, catching both with a seismic pulse that flattened a 10-foot radius. The air reeked of ozone. Barrow coughed and blinked up at her, stunned. "I told you not to die," she whispered, kneeling beside him. "And I told you," he grinned weakly, "I don't die easy." But then, the sky darkened. The matron ship descended fully, vast and silent, casting a shadow over miles. A section split open, and from it descended High Matron Sorolith, clad in liquid metal, her eyes glowing with contempt. Her voice shook the grain beneath them. "Bondbreaker, rogue, human filth, your resistance is noted. Your execution shall be witnessed." Silva froze. "Sorolith, she's here herself." Barrow struggled to his feet. "Good. I like shooting royalty." But Silva placed a hand on his chest. "You can't fight her directly. She's beyond physical force. She controls ecologic, thought, resonance, time within a 5-meter radius. I have to be the one to face her." He looked into her eyes. "Then I'm not letting you do it alone." She smiled. "Then we fight together." They walked into the field as partners. Sorolith landed with the elegance of a queen. "You bonded with a human. Do you know what you've done?" Silva's voice rang clear. "Yes, I've finally chosen." Sorolith sneered. "Then both of you will be unmade." And the final duel began, not with fists, but with frequencies. Sorolith unleashed harmonic storms, waves of vibrating air meant to tear thought from flesh. Silva countered with mating-born resonance, amplified by her bond with Barrow. Every time she faltered, he steadied her. Every time he stumbled, she held him upright. The battle raged in sound, color, and memory. Barrow saw his wife's face flash before him. His son's last letter. The pain meant to break him, but Silva's voice, clear and bright, cut through. "You're not alone anymore, Barrow," he roared in answer. Together they pushed back the storm. And in one final crescendo, Silva launched her energy into Sorolith's mindstream and shattered the matron's control. Sorolith screamed. Her form unraveled, falling into sound and dust. The rest of the guard froze. Their leader gone, command lines severed. Then they retreated, silent as mist. Barrow collapsed in the wheat, breathless. Silva cradled his head in her lap, her glowing fingers soothing the bruises on his ribs. "You did it," he said weakly. "No," she replied. "We did." The field was broken, but it was theirs. And Barrow Dren, the old farmer who'd once buried everything he loved, realized something as the stars brightened again. He had just planted the seeds of something new. Barrow's fields were quiet, too quiet. Where the wheat had once danced, Scorched earth now scarred the land. Metallic shards glinted under the rising suns. Smoke curled from energy-burned trenches. The old homestead leaned slightly to one side, half its roof blown off. But in the center of it all sat Barrow and Silva, shoulder to shoulder in the dirt, breathing, blinking, alive. "I'll have to reseed the north section," Barrow said dryly. Silva chuckled softly. Her skin, now calmer and warm-toned instead of glowing hot, pressed against his. "After all that, you're thinking about crops? It's a farmer thing." He looked sideways at her. "You keep planting even after the storms, even after the bombs." She was quiet a moment. Then, "I think I love that about you." Barrow blinked, then gave a short laugh. "Not what I expected to hear from a glowing alien death goddess." "I'm not a goddess." She leaned into him. "Just bonded." But peace doesn't last when stars remember. Hours after the battle, a shadow passed over the field again. This one familiar. Squat, angular, ugly. A human gunship. It touched down in the field's far end, flattening what was left of the southern grain. 3 figures stepped out, 2 in hardened black armor, 1 in a military coat bearing the insignia of Unified Earth Command. Barrow's heart dropped. "No!" He stood. Silva tensed, her hand instinctively generating a spark of light. Barrow gently caught her wrist. "Easy. Let me talk first." The officer approached. Weathered face. Artificial eye. She looked at Barrow like he was a rusted-out tank. "Farmer Dren," she said crisply. "Lieutenant Major Kira Sarn. You've been off-grid for 20 years. Mind explaining why alien distress signals are broadcasting from your property?" "Don't suppose I could tell you it's a weather balloon," he muttered. Kira's lips twitched. "Funny. Mind telling me why my scans show matron combat signatures, 10 dead alien enforcers, and a Class 9 resonance disruption field? Right in the middle of Terran soil." Before Barrow could answer, Silva stepped forward, eyes locked on Kira. "I'm Silva of Cairn 5. Barrow is my bonded mate. The matrons came to take me. We repelled them." Kira looked her over, pausing on her faint shimmer, then the mark glowing faintly where her collarbone met her neck. A bond sigil. She went still. "You bonded with a human," Kira said, voice dropping. "You didn't just mate. You completed a biological merge." Silva's expression was proud. "Yes, I chose him." Kira turned to Barrow. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Barrow folded his arms. "I saved her life. That count." She didn't look amused. "You created a genetic echo-link between cairn biology and human DNA. That bond isn't just symbolic. It's heritable, transferable. And the matrons won't be the only ones who care." Barrow's brow furrowed. "What are you saying?" Kira tapped her comm. Moments later, one of her officers approached with a datapad. She turned it to them. News feeds. Cairn matrons declare Terravalis Prime contaminated. Genetic pollution from human bond threatens matron authority. Alliance Council to vote on biological weapon designation. Barrow stared. "They're calling her a weapon?" "They're calling you both one," Kira said. "And Unified Command agrees." Silva stepped forward, voice like steel. "I'm not a weapon. I'm a free being. I fled them to escape being treated like breeding livestock." Kira's face twitched with sympathy, but duty dulled it. "I don't disagree, but that doesn't matter to Command. You've become a living symbol of interspecies rebellion. That kind of symbolism gets people killed." Barrow looked between them. "You here to arrest us?" "No," Kira said. "I'm here to offer protection. A safe extraction to Lunar Base 13. Isolated, off-record. No scans. You both vanish. Or else." She gestured toward the sky, where 2 more human ships began descending. "Someone less diplomatic will come next." Silva turned to Barrow. "What do we do?" He stared at the soil beneath his feet. Blackened, broken, still warm from battle. He thought about running, hiding, taking Kira's offer. But then he looked at Silva and realized something. They weren't just survivors now. They were symbols, proof that love and connection could happen outside systems, species protocols. He wasn't afraid of being hunted anymore. He was afraid of losing her. Barrow stepped forward. We don't run. Kira narrowed her eye. Then what? We plant. We rebuild. Right here. You're declaring this farm a stronghold? No, he said. A home. For anyone who doesn't belong anywhere else. Later that night, they watched the stars from what remained of the barn. Silva curled into his side, her bioluminescence dimmed to soft pulses. They'll come again. I know. More ships. More armies. I'll plant more landmines, Barrow said with a tired grin. She smiled against his chest. You're ridiculous. And you're mine. They kissed beneath the twin moons. Not just lovers. Not just fighters. But a beginning. As dawn bled across the shattered spires of Veridex's skyline, the remnants of the Drenari vanguard began their final assault. From above, burning dropships rained debris as human and allied alien fighters stood together, bloodied but unyielding. Smoke curled around shattered walls. And in the heart of it all, one human and one alien woman faced the end together. Cashin ducked behind a fragmented pillar, pulse rifle in one hand, his other arm holding Carixa upright. Her emerald skin was slick with blood and dirt, one leg dragging, her breathing labored, but her eyes burned, defiant. We're surrounded, she whispered, tone calm despite the chaos. Tactically, this is a poor situation. You still calculating odds, General? He asked, forcing a wry grin as plasma bolts peppered the wall behind them. Always, she replied, then locked her gaze to his. But I find myself caring more about variables I never calculated before. Cashin pressed his forehead to hers for a moment, his voice low. We make it out, or we take as many of them with us as we can. She smiled faintly, tusks glinting. A warrior's end. But I would rather live. A shrill tone sliced through the battlefield. A Drenari warhorn came from above. A drop cruiser, black and seething with spines, descended near the central plaza. Its doors opened, and from within emerged not soldiers, but a beast. The Drenari's new weapon. A biotitan, its body fused from captured species. Writhing limbs and eyes where no eyes should be. Towering, hulking, unstoppable. Cashin's blood froze. You've got to be kidding. Carixa stared in mute horror. That's not just Drenari technology. That's Nitherian. He turned sharply. As in, the species that wiped out 6 colonies in under an hour? They were extinct. We thought. If the Drenari are using forbidden Nitherian fleshcraft. Her sentence didn't finish. The beast roared, and the last lines of resistance buckled. Cashin stood, slamming a fresh cartridge into his rifle. We can't fight that thing. We don't need to fight it, Carixa said, steadying herself. We lure it. To what? She pointed toward the fuel conduits snaking under the plaza. The fusion lines. We overload them. Turn the whole platform into a bomb. Cashin looked at the beast, then at her, then nodded. Let's dance with a god. They moved fast, weaving through chaos. Carix's every step was pain, but she didn't falter. Cashin covered her back, mowing down Drenari with cold efficiency. They reached the terminal node, tucked beneath the ruined capital spire. Keep it busy, Carixa instructed, fingers flying across the control interface. Cashin didn't hesitate. He dashed into the open, firing straight into the Titan's face. Hey, ugly. You want some purebred Terran flesh? Come get it. The creature turned, 6 eyes narrowing. It surged forward, demolishing buildings in its path. Almost there, Carixa whispered. Her fingers trembled. This wasn't just sabotage. This was suicide. Carixa, Cashin's voice echoed. He was already climbing the side of the fuel column, laying explosives as he went. Cashin, get back here. I told you once. I don't leave my squad behind. The energy levels spiked. Lights flickered red. The terminal wailed with warning. Cashin looked down at her. Get to cover. She screamed. You'll die. He smiled. Only if it means you live. She turned her face away, Tears she didn't know she still had burning her cheeks. But then a thundering impact. The creature struck the spire, sending it collapsing. Cashin was flung from the platform, straight into Carix's arms. "I'm not letting you do this alone, human," she snarled. "We're both too stubborn." Together they ran. Behind them, the Titan struck the heart of the fusion core. The world lit up. The explosion incinerated half the plaza. Fire bloomed into the sky like a sun reborn. For a moment, everything was light and thunder and silence. Then, a cough. Cashin lay on his back, blinking up at a scorched sky. "Still alive," he murmured. "Hell of a detour." Carixa knelt over him, body bruised and bloodied but intact. "I pulled you out," she said softly. "Again." He chuckled. "You know, you're getting good at that." All around them, the battlefield was still. The Drenari survivors were retreating. Allied ships were landing. The war, for now, was over. 2 days later, under the repaired arches of the Veridex City Hall, a celebration stirred. Carixa stood in ceremonial garb, armor polished, blades sheathed, her scars honored with gold inlays. Cashin stood beside her, wearing a mix of Terran military blues and local tribal accents, earned through blood and fire. A chime sounded. In accordance with both Veridexian rite and Terran military tradition, the officiant began. "We gather not only to honor the bond between these two warriors, but the bond between our peoples." Carixa turned to Cashin. "I once told you I'd kill anyone who saw me unclothed." "You did," he said with a grin. "And then you proposed marriage." "I did not," she growled, then softened. "Well, I didn't not." He leaned close. "Guess we're stuck with each other now." She wrapped her arms around him, whispering, "Gladly." As the crowd cheered and stars blinked above, the human and the alien kissed, not as enemies or allies, but as two who had survived, scarred but unbroken, together. If you loved this fiery blend of romance, battle, and galactic heartbeats, don't stop here. Share this HFY sci-fi tale with fellow fans. Comment what story you want next, and subscribe for more alien-human love stories that break barriers and bones.